Jane landed a tiny part in a play about yuppies at the Public Theater. I went down to Florida to visit my grandmother, and since Jane was rehearsing her play downtown, she stayed in my apartment and fed my cat. A week later, I came home and found Jane in tears as she packed. "I don't want to go home, Nancy," she told me through choked sobs. "I really, really don't, but I have nowhere else to go." Apparently, things had become intolerable living with her mother. They argued constantly about Jane's weight, her dad, and money. She wanted to move out, to get a place of her own, but she didn't have the means. "Crash with me," I told her, "until you get on your feet." Why not? The closeness we had as allies in such a crazy game, sharing our woes and boosting each other's morale meant the world to me. Besides, I was making great money cocktail waitressing at the new It nightclub, my success stemming in large part from Jane's ingenious beauty tricks. I started blowing my normally wild and wavy hair stick straight and became resolutely bangs obsessed. I started using foundation to contour the nose Jane pronounced cute, but just a tad wide. "We should play up your mouth," she told me, brushing gloss onto my lips. "It'll offset your nose." When Jane suggested I wear tight, tiny t-shirts with no bra because it made my nipples look so awesome, I figured what the hell and did that too. Soon, I was taking home fistfuls of tips. After Jane's play finished its run, she went back to waitressing at a burger joint. When we weren't working, we hung out all the time, shopping, dieting, aerobicizing, bowling. On Wednesdays, we played poker with lesbians. In addition to the sartorial suggestions and canny beauty tips, Jane offered advice on how I could give my attitude a bit of a makeover, too. One of my best friends, Michael, had recently died of AIDS at the age of 22. I was totally bereft. One afternoon, I was ranting about it to Jane while she sat on the couch, languidly snipping her split ends with a pair of tiny nail scissors. "You seem really angry," she said, her eyes focused like lasers at the offending strands. "Yeah, I am," I said. 10 seconds ago, we were at Carnegie Hall watching Liza Minnelli right after she got out of rehab, and now he's dead. I can't believe I have to live out the rest of my life without him." "But you seem like an angry person in general. I think you give off a very angry vibe, and you should, think about that. If you want to be on TV, you have to be likable." "I thought you said I had to be fuckable." "Both. You have to be both. But you can't be fuckable if you're pissed off seeming. Now look at Justine Bateman. She seems really happy and super cute, and her career is going great. Something you should think about." Jane was absolutely right. I was angry about a lot of things. About Michael, about my lack of progress as an actor, about the fact that suddenly no one seemed to care what I thought or said, that all that mattered in the real world was how I looked. I was angry that Jane so blithely participated in what I viewed as the soul-crushing compulsion to be pretty and keep quiet, and that none of it seemed to faze her. I was angry that being angry wasn't okay, and I was even angry at Jane for calling me angry. But the thing was, her candor stopped me cold. Her tone was harsh, yes, but on some level, I understood that her words were not intended as a judgment. They were meant as a caveat. She was explaining in simple terms what was required of me if I wanted to succeed. Jane's admonishments pissed me off, but in a funny way, I also felt cared for, as though she was looking out for me. Meanwhile, my home seemed to provide a safe haven for Jane, away from her mother's constant nagging and criticisms. Though she talked tough with me, Jane eased up on herself. She ate an extra helping of pasta here, a bit of chocolate cake for dessert there, and one day, to her absolute horror, Her clothes stopped fitting. Soon, she could only wear her turquoise spandex workout pants and baggy sweaters. She became terribly depressed and vowed to correct the situation immediately. I listened with deteriorating patience to her complain about her nose, her weight, her ass. "You are still a beautiful girl," I told her over and over. "I promise you don't need to fix a thing." But it was to no avail. Jane would only stare at me, helpless and utterly despondent. Sometime in May, after having stayed with me for 5 months, she moved out and into her dad's house in Los Angeles. 2 months later, Jane called with big news. "I did it! I got a nose job! My dad bought it for me. I went to the same guy who did his nose, so they gave him a deal." She raved about her special diet of prepackaged burgers and pancakes and proudly reported losing 15 pounds in only a few weeks. Her agent was sending her out on sitcom auditions and getting all kinds of amazing feedback from casting directors. Scripts were being messengered to her dad's house. A gig was imminent. It's almost as though I actually act better with my new nose. Know what I mean? Jane and I kept in touch over the phone, and she told me all about her self-improvements. Another nose job, a hairline revamping, and a whopping 35-pound weight loss. Soon, she booked a supporting role on a sitcom and got a new boyfriend who took her to fancy dinners with George Burns. I, meanwhile, did several off-Broadway plays and an after-school special with Tova Feldshuh. When I decided to move to LA, Jane had just landed her first leading role on a hot new sitcom. We arranged to have lunch at Revival Cafe on Beverly. Jane ordered for both of us scrambled egg whites cooked in low oil and bagels scooped of all their bread so that all that remained was a bagel shell. I had recently guest starred on Seinfeld, and Jane was incredulous. "You've only been here 2 months? How awesome." Though buoyed by the guest spot, I was still broke and feeling anxious about the move to LA. And logistically, I only had another month to house sit for a friend. I needed a place to stay, even briefly. I told Jane my dilemma. "I don't know what to do," I said. "I don't have anywhere to go." She furrowed her brow, fired up a merit, and thought for a minute. Finally, it dawned on her. "Of course! You should stay at the Oakwood. Have you heard about it? It's temporary housing just off Laurel Canyon." We finished up our egg whites and bagel shells, and I walked her to her Range Rover. "You seem really great, Jane. Really, just so great," I said, hugging her. She smiled warmly and scrunched up her new nose at me. "It's 'cause I'm not desperate anymore," she said, and looked at me meaningfully, as though I were an errant child who needed gentle reminders of boundaries. Desperation freaks people out, especially out here. This was so fun. Let's do this again really soon. Jane's show became the breakout hit of the season, a sensation. She had done it. Jane had become a star. I called her several times, leaving messages of congratulations. She didn't return my calls. One day, I got her on the phone. "I'm so sorry," she cried, hearing my voice. "Everyone is pissed at me, all my friends. I never call anyone back. I'm just so busy. But I'd love to see you. Could we do next Thursday?"